Hello, Kathy Campbell. How are you today?
Let's talk about God, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about God. Let's talk about God. Let's talk about God.
That was an okay. All right. Kathy, what's this week's conversation gonna be about?
We're gonna talk a light and happy and friendly topic, which is God and religion.
Something that's never made anybody mad in the
No.
history of ever.
No, there's definitely never been any deaths or anything. I can't think of anything worse than death right now. Nope, definitely not. Yeah.
Kathy Gamble, why did you actually want to bring up the subject of religion? Because I remember thinking, this is like a thing. I don't know. I was just surprised.
So it's something that I know that you've kind of touched on occasionally on Do by Friday and some of your other shows. And it's something that's not really talked about a lot. And specifically the difference between like religion and faith and your own personal beliefs versus what like you might be identified as when you say I'm Catholic, like you say, whereas I come from this world as I am a non-denominational, very personal relationship with God myself, but I have yet to find a church that is not run by man as a capital, not... I mean, most of them, let's be honest, are run by men, but that is not necessarily the, identification.
Right. Both uppercase and lowercase men.
Yes, exactly. And, it's just something that I feel like could be interesting to talk about. And it by bringing it up, it maybe can make it easier for other people to talk about or not or whatever. But yeah, just one of those things that was like, this is a topic that people, because, you always hear don't talk about religion, politics, and sex at parties. I guess you could probably, sex is not on that list, but but it doesn't mean that we can't have like a communication about whatever parts of that we might feel comfortable with, but it's something that as friends you tend to hold off for a while and then come into.
Yeah, I guess because there are two parts of that are fairly large portions of my identity, and one is being queer. Surprise!
What?
The other, I know, shocking. And the other is being raised Catholic. And I guess most people assume that I am either not a practicing Catholic, or I've just or I have a negative experience with Christianity. And so it just never really comes, you're right, it never really comes up. And because people make those assumptions, I guess it's less uncomfortable because I also live in what's largely an atheistic or an agnostic really community. And I don't know, I guess I have never felt pressure amongst friends, like at parties, like we'll get into how my relationship with like the church, both capital C and lowercase c, is complicated, but I've never thought of it in those terms. I'm very lucky. Yeah, I don't know. Man, I'm already scrambling, and we're like 5 minutes in.
I know. Yeah.
You well, so you said that I assume that you were talking about yourself when you're
Yes.
talking about spirituality and a personal relationship with God. Were you raised in a church of some sort with some sort of organized religion?
I was raised in church, period. Not necessarily a specific type, which I think is where I gained a lot of my own how I manage things. We not necessarily jumped around, but we did move a variety. We went to a variety of different denominations.
Oh, interesting.
We
Like when you so wait, I'm sorry, moved around physically, so then you moved churches or you just
no,
tried out a bunch of
just kind of
churches?
tried out a bunch of churches.
Oh.
Uh, we
Hmm.
kind of went for the people. That made a large part of why we would go to a specific church. So we would,
Mm-hmm.
for a period of time, we traveled about 45 minutes to a Foursquare church, because of a bunch of people that we knew that we went there, and we liked the layout, we liked the group, and then it just got even larger than it was.
Can you quickly explain what that is so people don't think that you were going to a church to check in on Foursquare?
To be honest, I don't know specifically what one might constitute a Foursquare church. But I do know that the lovely Google will like assist me in this moment. So they are an evangelical Pentecostal Christian denomination.
Oh, so it's an actual denomination.
Yes.
Interesting. I've never heard of this.
Yeah. And it's very much okay, their tagline is church reimagined, founded in biblical scripture, flexible for today's changing world.
Are they a startup?
Well, they started in 1923.
I mean, they did start up, and maybe, you know what? Maybe they are a unicorn in
There we go.
the world. They were successful. Not, you know what? Not many churches started that late.
Yep.
Are still around. Good for them.
So it looks like the term the Foursquare is meant to represent the four aspects of the department of Christ as the Savior, baptizer with the Holy Spirit, healer, and soon coming King. So a little bit of everything. But the main reason, so it had a good mix of both traditional music and not really poppy, like it didn't go full pop, but it went more contemporary songs in the beginning singing portion. Most of the time it wasn't too long, which was my mom's preference, the singing part. And then of course the services themselves were about an hour, so nothing like a full-on mass or anything like that, and we did it in English. Yeah, so we did a little bit of Baptist before, and at the Baptist church we ended up, like, my dad wanted to get involved, like he would go on the men's retreats, and just like my mom would go on the women's retreats, which was new. He didn't really participate in that side of things a whole lot, and so he found a community of support, but then he wanted to help out in the leadership without being on the board or something. And it ended up we all just kind of were not scorned, but just like not supported as much anymore because he didn't want to be in that part of a leadership. And so that kind of like separated us out. And so we moved again. And so like throughout growing up, I never identified as a particular denomination, partially because I could barely tell you what most of them, like what the specifics that most of them believe. But it helped me really question my own like beliefs in a way that someone didn't come and say, well, you are such and such, so this is what you must believe, type of a thing. And so it just kind of put that pattern into my life. And so it's hard to find a church that believes that way or allows that to be a thing. So it's no wonder I'm having a hard time like connecting with the church, because they all want to say that this is the right way to believe. And yeah.
I'm very curious. Did your parents intentionally, I mean, in terms of sort of the church hopping, there's that, you know, like basically it sounds like a mix of beliefs and administrative issues.
Yes.
But yeah. It just seems really, were your parents looking for something like specific that fit with their own beliefs? Or was it more of like, we enjoy the community and the people here?
I think it was, I mean, it's so hard to say because I don't know specifically, especially during a lot of that time. And we've discussed this before. My memory is terrible. But I think a lot of it is they both came into their adulthood belief systems in a way that churches didn't support them. So like they had to find their own belief systems for themselves, because either their parents didn't believe in God or churches, or the church that they grew up in, whatever. And so they self-identified the need to find a church for the community aspect of it, because that's what they needed more than, oh, this person is going to tell me exactly what to do to get to heaven.
Yeah. Were they baptized?
Yes.
Were you baptized?
I was.
In what? Can I ask what? I love how I'm going into the.
I know.
Well, this just sort of informs, I guess, or the listeners' thought process of. I will say that I think you are an unusual case in that you grew up in the church, sort of capital C, but you didn't put down roots anywhere.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. So were you baptized at a specific place, and was it looked down upon at other churches?
Not really. So I was baptized at the Baptist church, Christmas Eve, I believe, when I was 16.
Whoa! Hold the phone. Okay. Whoa. Sorry. Now, all right. Beep, 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 beep. So you were not. Can people tell I'm Catholic?
No, not at all. There's not enough Latin for us to really tell.
If folks don't know, I don't even know if we're gonna. This might be a two-parter. But Catholics are baptized at birth, and it's pretty standard. You know that scene in The Godfather? It is indeed very realistic of what goes on during a baptism. Other than I hope my parents didn't have all the other crime families killed. Anyway, so it sounds like you made a choice to be baptized as a young adult.
So growing up, there was always the whole topic of inviting Jesus into your heart. So that was a decision that you actively made to say, yes, I believe in God. Yes, I believe that Jesus was his son, the Messiah, type of a whatever words get put into it. And then additionally, as kind of a visual proof of your belief, you would then be baptized.
So is this also a saved type situation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, it makes me wonder, because so the whole idea behind, being saved is that you are then, because the only way to heaven is through Jesus. And by being saved, you then get that ticket, that big key in the sky, whatever. And so it makes me wonder what, and this is probably why I have yet to find an actual church. Like, what is that age where you're too young to automatically get in because you're a child versus old enough to make the decision, but you haven't made that decision yet? Like, is there a magical age that happens? And Jesus will say, nope, sorry, you are too old. You have not chosen. Like, yeah.
So I'm still very, did you feel pressure from your family or the community you were a part of, or did you, like, were you indeed saved? Like, did you make that choice of your own volition as much as a, teenager can?
Right. So I believe I actually chose to be saved when I was younger. I was I think 6 or 7. And when we were older, so I was saved at the Foursquare Church and baptized at the Baptist church. Take that as you may.
Got it.
Because with the Baptists, it was much more, they did it much more often. They did, the big things a whole lot more.
I mean, they put it in the name of...
Right, you would think that kind of gives it away.
Spoilers.
Yeah. But it's still, both of them were very conscious choices. So it wasn't just like, oh, all of my other high school friends are getting baptized this weekend, let's go. It was okay, I think this would be great. I would like to give that full, yes, I've been saved before, but this is kind of a way to reaffirm my belief to the community.
Got it. Yeah, I have friends who have been saved many times in their lives because it's almost like, I don't want to call it a re-up. I really don't want to
upgrade.
Yeah. This comes into an interesting thing where I will make Catholic jokes and belittle Catholicism all day long, but I don't I know so little about Methodists and no bit about Baptists and Lutherans and Mormons, but it's more of the non-denominational Christianity that is almost foreign to me, because Catholicism is
so
essentially defined by rules and, and structure. But I'm curious then, what made you? You haven't really made it clear if you have fallen away from the capital C church idea, and do you considered? I assume you considered yourself a Christian then. Do you still hold that belief, or is it much more honed in to just I'm figuring this out myself?
I still identify as a Christian, capital C, etc. I don't necessarily, my cynical side is too strong to have found a church. I have just kept getting grumpy with the people in charge and the politics and the bureaucracy behind it. And I find it so much more peaceful to have my moments with God, myself, with my Bible, with my time, as opposed to, oh, you have to wear the right clothes. You have to be here at the right time. Everyone has their assigned seats, or the false welcoming to new people is almost painful to me.
What do you mean by that?
It's almost, there are times when I have been to churches that I've consistently gone to where it's like, oh, look, there's a new person. I'm going to go pounce on them and make myself force myself into their lives.
Okay. So you might be surprised to know this, but I haven't really been welcomed in any churches recently. So that was a genuine question.
Yes.
Of, is it almost like, I really hope I'm not hurting anybody by these questions. Like, is it almost like a PTA situation of like a mom wants to be like, yep, I got him. Like, oh, what's up in here? Like that sort of thing, like more social than wanting to welcome them into the community.
Yes. A little bit like there will be the welcome committee because everyone knows if you're new, or if you're going to a gigantic, huge church, nobody knows anyone there. And it's difficult to like have any sort of that connection without. So yeah, it's so interesting. But like I mentioned before, my cynicism runs deep. And it's very difficult to find like where my beliefs would rub differently. Like, oh, I don't know, maybe gay people are not an abomination.
I hope not.
Yeah. You know what? It's so like that should be blatant and obvious. And I don't want to be in a situation at a church where I'm there to praise the Lord and feel like I cannot love on everybody. Like it just makes me feel angry, which is not what I want that time to be.
Yeah. You are having, it sounds like you are having a tough time with this, and I'm wondering if you had in the notes something about Avi. Has something gone down, or like what questions does she ask?
So the main reason that this went into the notes was we came home from something and she was a little bit more tired, so she gets a little bit more emotional at those periods of time. And she started crying because she was so angry that she had been praying for God to heal Ryan and he hadn't gotten better. And that broke my heart. And so we had, this was before we had stopped. And so of course I'm like, okay, the hardest part with children is you can't, when they're breaking down, it's difficult, but it's so important for you to keep it together at least a little bit, to have a conversation with them. And so I was like, okay, hold on. And so we pulled over and I brought her into the front seat with me. Car turned off and all of that for safety reasons, of course, but pulled her in tight. And I was like, sometimes the request that we ask from God is not given to us in the way that we expect. And we talked about how much better he had been. This was at the time when he had hit just about 5 months of no pain. We were finally on a medication regimen that allowed for him. He's at like 0 pain during the day. He's not taking a nap every day at 2:00 because he's hurting and spazzing and all of that. And so having to discuss with her, because at church she was said, pray to God, give him your thanks and ask for what you desire, type of a mindset. And they didn't preface that or discuss the fact that what we're asking from him is not going to be an immediate miracle necessarily. It's not going to come in a way that we would expect. And it just made me a little bit angry. So
they were basically doing the Jesus is Santa type of deal?
Yes, that's it, exactly. And I hate that because there are so many amazing small miracles, and I'm so thankful for so many things. You would think that the events of my husband's stroke and all of that would have challenged my faith. I never questioned why me. I never asked any of that. I was constantly just so thankful that it had happened before I went to work. God, I can't even imagine, because Avi was 22 months. That's too young to call 911. That's too young to be gone for 9 hours and come home and find whatever would have happened. I'm so thankful that he rolled over onto her and woke her up so that I was able to wake up and find out what was going on. I'm so thankful that we had some amazing specialists in the area. I'm so thankful that like all of these things came into play in a way that allowed us to get through it and to survive and be stronger. But to have her faith and belief in her daddy's healing be questioned so young without that full understanding is just, it just makes me angry.
That, I mean, what, I mean, one, I'm so sorry to you and especially Avi that those preconceived notions are so dangerous to put. I mean, I don't even know what to say, because I have seen such similar things happen with not just with children, with full-grown adults.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard the same thing said by friends of my parents about just something as simple as their kids being gay. Like, I prayed and prayed, and so yeah, and like this little tiny thing that it doesn't involve health, does not involve the wellness of a family member. It is so toxic and heartbreaking. And can I ask how, like, I mean, in that moment, I don't think I would have had the same wisdom as you, obviously, in that beautifully articulated answer. But what was like step 2 for you guys? So does she go to church or like a Bible study type thing?
Yeah,
or
she goes to church with my parents at a local, what's it called? So she goes, it's where a lot of my aunt and uncles go to, Assembly of God. And so she has some friends there. Some of my cousins' children are there. So she has like a good friends group. And then every so often she also will go to church with neighbors. And I can't remember which church they go to at all, but so by offering up 2 different churches and by having these open communications about it, I want to make sure that she's questioning and aware of different things, because it's so important that you truly believe in what you believe, not just because someone's told you.
Have you personally and Avi explored any type of religions outside of Christianity, or is it just that is where your comfort, like, it sounds like your faith is set in Christianity and those are the avenues that you want to explore for yourself, but what about her?
I obviously would be 100% open and okay with that. We would have to like find someone that maybe is Buddhist or I mean even Jewish, a variety of different options absolutely out there. I know Ryan did a lot of exploring in some of the Eastern religions and thought process through that, and so yeah, it would definitely, but it's also not something necessarily that I feel comfortable going and knocking upon the door of a Jewish temple. Hi!
Explain this. Right.
Yes.
Right. So it's like, oh, absolutely. It's just like right now it's I wasn't trying to be
Yeah.
obviously
No.
you know this.
Yes.
But people's ears. I was not
Good
trying to be
call.
like, why don't you take her? Why
Yeah.
don't you drop her off at temple? Why aren't you doing the mosque tour? I was just curious if she had expressed any interest in that, only because she's very seems very perceptive and curious as a 10-year-old. But anyway.
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Weinstein.
Yeah. Hi, I heard there's free babysitting. I could just leave my daughter here. That's fine, right? You guys can teach her something.
and the sad part is, like, if it the rabbi is probably like, oh yeah, of course, and then be like, who the fuck was that bitch? Very kind to your daughter.
Yes.
Anyway,
Oh,
I
man.
like using humor as a diversion for feelings.
It's totally healthy and fine.
So what was her? Is it okay that we're still focusing on this like conversation?
Yeah. No, that's good. We had some humor, so I've dried my eyes, so we're good to get back to the seriousness. So
what was like the resolution from
So
that? Or
we talked about how his health had improved. And a little bit after that she was like, but he still can't do things with me that I want him to do. And so we talked about what those things might be, and we have a list of things that she wants to be able to do with her daddy. So when the weather gets warmer, they're going to play ball. He's going to sit in a chair outside, and they're going to throw the ball together. We're working on getting together to see if we can find a good, like, 3-wheeled bike, so that he can go on a bike ride with us. For Christmas, he got a little foot pedal type for, like, under the desk that has the straps over the legs. So that's part of his exercise, is to pedal under the chair, so that in the future we can go on a bike ride as a family.
Oh, that's so cool.
And they read Harry Potter together, because he has such a hard time reading now that he doesn't get to read it for pleasure, which is so sad. And she wants time with him. And so that's kind of their thing that they do at night, which is great, and it's so wonderful, and I love that connection. And so we made our list, and we have our things together, and being able to acknowledge the answer that she was expecting is not the answer that was given, kind of, I hope, helped guide her a little bit into a little bit more comfort and ease in what's going on, and the reality of things, and that people aren't often magically healed by Santa Jesus.
Oh boy. It feels like it's almost a double-edged sword, because you're like, she and the other members of your family, like, she's getting the benefit of what I hope is a positive community experience.
Yes.
But with, the downsides of Santa Jesus.
Yes.
And I don't know. At what point do you think does she get a lot out of the community, or is it kind of at this, or does she have to be, like, dragged to church?
Well, the nice part is my mom asks her pretty much every week, does Avi want to come to church? And if she says no, okay, no problem. If she says yes, then she goes. And so there's no
Literally hashtag blessed.
yes,
Oh my God.
right? Right? And for the record, it's not because she's still asleep or she wants to sleep in, because she's always awake before then anyways, because church starts at like 10 o'clock. So
but also, who cares? Kids need
right,
sleep.
right?
God's not going to shame a child for.
Yes.
Sorry, I have some feelings. Sorry,
I can't tell. I can't tell at all. But yeah, the biggest thing is every so often she wants to spend time with the family because we're busy and like things happen, and that's okay. And so yeah, we kind of leave it up to her, and she has ownership over her body. She has ownership over pretty much her life for the most part, and a lot of the food that she eats too, which is a whole other conversation. We talk about food with her, but I want her to want to go, and I want her to enjoy everything that it can bring, but I'm also not going to force her, because it's not a fight I need to do, especially because I don't necessarily want to go to that church, and I don't feel right being the one who would have to say, you need to go when I'm not going, type of a thing.
Got it. Why do you want her to have that experience? Is it because you just want her to have all of the options?
That's definitely part of it. I want her to be able to make an informed decision kind of about everything. But also at this stage especially, it's good to make friends and get to know people in different situations and from different places. Because so often you get pigeonholed with, okay, I am just with, well, and especially she's with just school friends and just dance friends so many days during the week, that it's nice to get a different variety of people to interact with and meet and learn those social exchanges that you might not get in the daily interaction that you have.
It kind of sounds like putting a school and a church all together as one may not be the healthiest situation for a lot of children.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll talk about my feelings next week. I'm curious, was Ryan Christian, or does he still consider himself a Christian? Do you pray together as a family?
So he was not raised in any church or any of that. In high school, he was when he was saved, and so when we were first dating, I was in Orlando, and he was in in Indiana, and we would sit on the phone forever. And the third night that we were talking, we were playing this game in the Bible where one of us would be flipping through and we'd say, okay, stop. And then we'd run our finger over the pages and then say, stop. And the third day we found 1 John 4:18, there is no fear in love. And that is what made us decide to actually start discussing about getting married. And again, this is the third day that we had been talking. We'd known each other for years, but it was just like, okay, God, we got it.
I'm so sorry. I have a lot of emotions that are
choking
like
you,
manifesting themselves as phlegm, I think, because that's adorable.
Yeah.
And okay, so I did not know that.
Yeah,
that is awesome. And so then I guess you answered my question. Oh man, this is. I did not know this would be so hard for me to talk about or think about. you got married in a church then, right?
Yes, we did get married in the church. We got married in the same church that my parents got married in.
Oh, that's right. Oh,
Yeah.
so cute.
And now he is unsure of his beliefs.
Understandable.
Yeah, he's kind of been going through that same that why me, what the fuck happened type of a mindset. And so I know that's hard for Avi.
Yeah.
And so we're just kind of, we're present in this. And like when we go over to my parents' house for dinner, we always pray before the meal. That's always a consistent thing. And he obviously sits and prays with us if he's there. Like, that's not a question. He's the respectful and all of that. But his personal beliefs are unsure, which is, again, understandable. And so we'll just keep praying for him and hope that it finds some peace in whatever that might be.
How you doing?
Great. So great. Oh, man. Yeah. But next time will be your turn. So.
Oh, you will not be off the hook.
Oh, man.
Well, and also, I think it's interesting. Do you talk about this with other people, like faith in general? Does it come up a lot because I feel like it doesn't come up in the podcasting world, mostly because we live in a religion of dongles right now.
Yes. We live in Dongle Town.
Yes. And I still go back to the like frequency of talking about it type thing. And I'm realizing that most of my community is, yes, either they are atheist or agnostic, or they were raised in a very strong a Catholic family or Jewish family. Not a ton of well, we'll talk about next week whether or not I consider myself a Christian, because that is a hard word for me to say with positive connotations.
Yeah.
Because of the world. But I guess I do, in like, if which is a very weird thing for me to even say, I guess, out loud. Like, I'm saying I'm a Christian. It's a very, I don't even know if that's the thing I've ever verbalized.
Well, and that's so interesting to me, especially as you call yourself Catholic, and yet how can you be Catholic and not Christian? But again, that's for a topic for next week.
Kathy Campbell, I am so glad that I'm so sorry you didn't even answer how often do you talk about faith with other people?
You know what, not as often. I try to embody Christ-like behaviors and be full of grace and all of that, and if it's brought up, I will discuss it, but I'm also not going to be like, hi, I'm a generic Christian.
Oh God, I have my favorite quote from a saint is from Saint Francis, and it's preach the gospel always, when necessary use words.
Yes.
And it sounds, when you say like preach the gospel always, when necessary use words, it sounds like wise and kind, but I always think of it like based on the life he had, is like, yeah, preach the gospel always, when necessary use words. Like, it's a snarky, like, get your nose out of other people's butts,
yes,
type thing. And it's just really,
I love that.
Saints are another thing that is almost,
that's a whole, we will leave that for after we discuss you next week.
Man, there are so many reasons why capital C Christians don't like me, because and again, I am talking about it's so many goodness gracious. The saint thing, the Mary thing, Mary, mother of God, if people don't see, I don't know how much people know and how much people don't know. Like, I'm either condescending, like, did you know Jesus was I don't know, because it's so ingrained in me that it's and like, do people know about saints? Like, I mean, yeah, they do, but like, do they know why lots of Christians hate Catholics because of the same thing? Like, it's there's so much, and I'm so glad that you brought this up.
Well, thank you for turning it around on me and having the conversation about me this week. And don't worry, you'll be next.
It's a good thing to hear. Kathy Campbell, where can people find you on the internet and this weekend in real life?
Yes, in real life, you can find me at PodCon this week. Come up and say hello to me just like that. You can also find me online. All my social media is at Mrs. Soup. And I am also online at kathycampbell.com. And what about you, Alex Cox? Where can people find you?
I'm at, oh my gosh, all the phlegm feelings. Oh my God. I'm like, it's like, phlegm. You can find me on the internet at Alex Cox, spelled COX, not the other way, on Twitter. And I will not be at PodCon, but I want everybody to say hi to Kathy and tell her how awesome she is. Yeah, and I was about to say, and you can see me live streaming at 8 p.m. Eastern or Central Time, but this is on Friday. This is past. However, I'm very much into I'm digging some of the weird stuff Matthew Casanelli and I are doing on our show Supercomputer, and you can find us _supercomputer on Twitter. Just honestly, you'd be shocked, but Googling Supercomputer podcast, he thought up a good name that no one had taken.
Nice.
So find us there.
Good job, Matthew Casanelli.
Yeah, that Michael Corleone guy is.
Oh, so funny. All right. Bye, Alex Cox. I love you.
Bye, Kathy Campbell. I love you too so much. And please give Abby a high five for me. And I hope that she enjoys her Harry Potter tonight.
I will. All right. Bye.